Hey there, Taylor Ellwood here, and welcome to the Indie Author Business Success video here. Today, we're going to be talking about how to manage finances, and this is actually going to be part one of a series of videos on this topic because it's something that I noticed, which I find really curious, is that for the most part, in the books that I see that are about the topics of self-publishing, the focus is on marketing and writing, and rarely, if ever, is the topic of self-publishing broached, or not self-publishing, finances broached in self-publishing. And I think that's really a fatal mistake to make. So we're going to be talking about that. Now, real quick, if you're watching this video and you're not a subscriber, click the subscriber button below and then click the notification for the bell so that way you get notified every time I go live or upload a video. All right, so let's talk about this. Why isn't why aren't finances? Why isn't money talked about in self-publishing? Well, there could be a few reasons for that. One reason could be because authors get weird about the idea of talking about how much money they're making. Like, oh, if I tell them that I'm making, 60K a year or something, what are they going to, or how many sales or whatever else? And let's be honest here, at least in American culture, um, people do get weird about talking about how much money they're making. That's not what we're talking about here, okay? We're not talking about how much money you're making as an author, though as an author, as a self-publishing author, you should care about how much money you're making and you should be keeping track of that. And we'll talk about that more. But I don't want to know how much you're making. I don't care about that, but I do care about when I talk about the finance side of things, I care about the business of your the business side of this. So look, when you publish books and you're a self-publishing author, you are doing when you make a book sale, you have and a book sold on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or wherever it's sold, you have made money. And at that point, you are a business. And what I see a lot of times is that in the self-publishing industry, the focus is on, well, write more books and learn how to market your books. And are those activities essential? Yes, they are. After all, if you don't write a book and publish it, you don't have a product to sell. So that's clearly important. And if you don't know how to market your books, it's harder to sell them. And by marketing, I'm not just talking about getting a good book cover or even writing up a good back cover blurb. Those are important, but also learning how to use online advertising like Amazon and Facebook, or learning other things that you can do, such as promoting your books. All of these things are important. But the one thing that isn't really talked about is the money aspect behind all that. Because if you're going to write a book and publish it, and if you're going to market that book, it costs money. Now, some people could say, well, it doesn't always cost money. I would say, no, it really does cost money. I mean, look at the effort involved. Okay, writing the book itself may not cost you money. It just costs you time. But like if you're going to order a book cover, you're going to edit that book, it costs money. And those things are expenses for your business. If you want to use an online ad or run a promotion special, those things cost money. So you have to understand that money is an essential part of your self-publishing success. And so it's not enough to just say to other authors, well, write more books and then learn how to market them. You also have to look at the monetary aspects. And most importantly, you have to look at how you manage your money. Because if you're not smart about it, it can really come back and bite you in the butt. For example, and this is something that should be self-evident, but it isn't all the time. You own a business when you publish a book. The money that you make should be kept in a separate account. It should be kept in a separate business account as opposed to going into your personal account. If you're writing books and you're publishing them, and then you're having book sales, and then the royalties for those book sales are coming into your personal account, then you're blending your business money with your personal money. And that's a big no-no. The government doesn't like that. If you ever get audited, that's going to make your life not fun. And this might seem self-evident, but I don't think it is. I think a lot of authors don't necessarily know those details, or if they do know them, it's just kind of one of those things that's kind of just never really paid attention to in the books that talk about self-publishing. So you want to make sure you have a separate business account. You also want to keep track of your expenses because you're going to be able to write those expenses off. And you want to make sure, for tax purposes, I should say, and you want to make sure that you're also hiring an accountant to do your taxes. Yes, you could use TurboTax. And if you're only publishing maybe one or two books a year, that's fine. But if you're publishing more than that, I highly recommend hiring an accountant. Yes, it's going to cost you a bit of money, but hey, that's an expense you can write off. But really, at the end of the day, it's that peace of mind. And it's also knowing that if you ever get audited, that accountant's going to be there to help you with that process. And you might say, well, Taylor, like how would you even know about all this? And the answer to that is I used to be a business coach. I coached people on their businesses, and I also worked with enough accountants over the last, umpteenth years that I know these things. I'm not an accountant myself, okay? So I want to be very clear that this advice that I'm giving you, you should go and verify with an accountant if you want to be absolutely sure about what you're doing. But realistically, I mean, you pick up any business book that's not, necessarily a book just about self-publishing, but in like a small business book, you're going to find advice like that anyway. So it's not like I'm selling you anything here that you can find elsewhere. But I think it's important to stress because if someone's going to give you advice on how to grow your business successfully as a self-publisher, they should be able to basically say, hey, you also need to attend to the business side of things. I might also add, I actually did customer support for financial software for a couple years, and this was for like construction companies. And I know construction companies aren't the same as self-publishing, but you know what? Sometimes you end up telling people like, oh hey, you should check with your accountant about this, but you need to know. I would do that, and the advice was always solid and accurate. I mean, I know because I had an accountant tell me that one time when I was in a call between them and the client and me with the software. So, again, verify with your accountant. That's what I'm really just going to say. Like, verify with somebody who does this for a living. But if you want to approach your self-publishing as a business, you need to attend to the money side of things. And so in this first video, I'm kind of giving this very broad overview, and in subsequent videos in this series, we're going to be talking more about this in detail and things that you want to be looking at and thinking about, because the last thing you want to do is set yourself up for a situation where you're like, well, I published a bunch of books and I made a bunch of money, but it all went to my personal account. Oops. That's not a fun situation to be in. Or I published a bunch of books and everything else, but I'm in the red on those books because I was told to write and market. But what I didn't do is I didn't make sure that what I was doing was sustainable. And that really brings me to the one other lesson I wanted to impart to you. With your writing business, you want your writing business to be sustainable. And what that means is that you want it to pay for itself. Now, initially, especially if you've only written like one or two books, you're going to be in the red because it costs money to get your book edited and get the cover art done. But as you publish more books and as you learn what works, you can turn that, you can get into the black. What I'm going to do in the next video, which will come out next week, is I'm going to talk about what it means to actually be sustainable in your writing business, what that actually looks like, and how to plan for that as you're starting to write, and what to do if you're just starting out, but also what to do later on if you've published a lot of books and you're making money. I want to approach it from both frameworks because some of you who are going to watch this are going to be people who are just starting out or have been only writing for a little while or only have a couple books out, and some of you will be people who have lots of experience, and you may already know some of these things, but it's still a good reminder as to what to look for. All right, thanks for watching, and I will see you next week.